Good morning, everyone. Mr. Sullivan got a new toy, and so we're going to see exactly how well this goes. If it doesn't work out, we'll try using a different method in the future. But we're going to start working on our career report research project. If you were in class, you would have gotten one of these half sheets of paper that give the instructions for the career report. It says over the next few weeks we're going to be working on this, so it's not something you have to do right away. We're going to be doing a lot of it in class. For my online students, you got a copy of this on Google Docs, so please make sure whichever direction you got this from that you have completed this. The thing you actually have to do is on the back here, where it says, and I know it's too small to see, this is our brainstorming where we came up with 5 different topics that we might want to research, 5 different careers we would be interested in doing. But veterinarian, entrepreneur, YouTube gamer, football player, all those fun topics that you kids are interested in. So you should have have listed 5 of them, and hopefully by the time you get to this, I will have approved 1 or 2 or 3 or all of them by either circling them or highlighting them on Google Docs. So now you just need to choose one, give it a little check mark so you don't forget it, and now we're ready to begin our next step. So our next step, if we actually bring this back here, and we'll make it a little bigger here. Okay, our first step was brainstorming. That's done. We have that all on the back side done, and cross that off. Our second step is to research it. Okay, we did a whole 2 days with notes about taking or about finding credible sources. If you missed that, please make sure you go look for it. And now let's take a look at the instructions for doing our research. Now this will be online, but since Mr. Sullivan's got this new toy of his, we're going to use the document camera to fill it out in person. It's a little easier for me to make sense of in my mind. But this is online for all students, and if we just kind of flip through here, you'll see we have 2 different types of pages. Okay, we've got 1 page that looks like this, and then 3 pages that look like this. Okay, these pages are where we're going to write down information that we find from our sources. Okay, we'll give them a name, put down the title, all that fun stuff. And on the front, on the first page, these are questions that will help us as we research. Okay, different things that we can use to find the information so that we have enough to write about. Okay, so let's read the instructions here on our career research. Once you've chosen your topic, which we already did, good. Now it's time to research. Use this packet to help you find more about it. You must have 3 different sources. Hey, that's why we have 1, 2, and 3 pages just like that. I'm going to fill out all 3. On the following pages, you'll keep track of those sources by adding a name, deciding if it's credible, useful, true, and reputable are the 3 words we've been using to describe credible. And look, on here, on these pages, we have our authority, accuracy, coverage, objectivity, and currentness. Same questions that we did on the PowerPoint when we looked at the example article. You should look for sources that answer as many of these questions as possible. These questions are, you might not be able to find every single one of them, but these are going to be helpful for you. Let's say your chosen career was doctor. You can start by saying, typing into Google, what is the average salary of a doctor? And then your source that you look for and you read might tell you exactly what it is. Okay, and then you would be able to answer it. I'll show you that in a second. All right, so that's what we're going to do, how we're going to take our notes as we research. Now, together, we're going to actually look at an example. So I found this article that is amazing and is about a job that I'm pretty sure none of you guys are going to pick. Painting bridges. So this article tells us about a day in the life of a bridge painter, and it's an example of something you might find when you do your research. If you were looking to be a bridge painter, you might type in, "What's it like to be a bridge painter?" and an article just like this would come up. I'm going to try and make this a wee bit bigger. Maybe a wee bit smaller. There we go. Try to keep both of us in frame here. All right, so we can start before we even read this source, because I already found it for you. We know that it's going to be useful. Let's just take a look at what we would do on our sheet like this. Okay, it asks us first for a nickname. Okay, something we're going to remember this article by. I'm going to just call it Bridge Article. Okay, the name of the website is Newsela, newsela.com. So I'm going to write that down. Okay, the name of the article is Dream Jobs. Colon, bridge painter. And as you may know, when you write down the name of an article, it gets surrounded with quotation marks. Okay, so let me just clarify real quick. You guys do not have to write any of this down. I am doing so as for the purposes of demonstration. And the last thing that we'll put here is the author's name. So hopefully you can see on here, where is the author's name? It is right here. Aaron Colston, Erland, ERLEND CLOUSTON. Okay, and then this part here is the reason that everybody has this digital except for Mr. Sullivan. This is the URL, which is where you'll find this website if you ever have to go back to it. And it's going to be a very long string of letters and numbers like this. This is newsela.com/read/dream-jobs-fourth-bridge-painter/ID 2499. Okay, you don't have to write all of that down. If you found your source on the internet, you would just copy it and paste it. Okay, and then down below here we have the main idea of this article. So now that we have that information, or now that I have that information, since I'm the one using this in my example, it's time to start reading it. In class, we're going to read this together, since you are obviously not in class with us or not following along. Then I'm going to read it to you. As I read this, we're going to grab our highlighter, and we're going to highlight anything that answers one of the questions on this. What is the average salary of the job? What type of degree would you need? How long would you need to go to school? What are the daily responsibilities? What hours does this job work? What is the best part? What's the worst part? And is this dangerous? So let's read this, and we'll stop if we find anything. Bob Muir is a bridge painter in a legendary workplace. The Forth Bridge crosses the Firth of Forth waterway in Scotland and looks like a rhubarb-colored cobweb. It's 45,000 tons of metal built across 8,296 feet, or about 1.5 miles, of choppy water. Painters like Muir must protect it from salt, frost, and snow, which is why it is known as the job that never ends. My life, exclaims Muir, is a 39-year-old painting supervisor from the bridge's 365-foot high towers. You can see 10 miles to the village where Muir, a miner's son, was raised. 5 miles closer is Dunfermline, or however that's pronounced, where Muir now lives. Muir is a man of few words, with close cropped hair, bulldog chin, and broad freckled hands. He is not blasé about his legendary workplace. You will realize what it means to guys like myself when you get out there, he promises as I squeeze into my official steel-capped boots. Let's stop for a second and think about what we've read in this section. So far, we've just kind of got a description of this guy here. We can give him a little mustache and a goatee. This is Bob Muir, okay? And he is a bridge builder, or a bridge painter, rather, in Scotland. And when it says here that he is not blasé about his job, that means he takes it very seriously. So far, we haven't learned anything about the job itself. We've just introduced the man, so there's nothing to really highlight in here. The only thing that we have learned is that people call it the job that never ends, but that doesn't answer any of our questions, so we'll keep that for later. Our next section is the bridge. Painting bridges helps keep them sturdy. People tend to take bridges for granted, though what goes up can come down. Since World War II, 29 British bridges have collapsed, 2 of them because of corrosion. Since 1996, the 4th bridge, which carries 200 trains a day, has been the subject of intense first aid exercise. An intense first aid exercise. Let's talk about the word corrosion real quick. Corrosion is when something dissolves, like when something rusts. Muir joined this project 12 years ago, and in 2005 was placed in charge of painting operations on the bridge's northern portion. This means, roughly speaking, he is responsible for ensuring at least one half of one of the world's most famous river crossings does not topple into the water. Okay, so here's our first thing that is on our list of questions. What are the daily responsibilities of this job? Muir is responsible. He is responsible for ensuring at least one half of one of the world's most famous river crossings does not dissolve into the water. Okay, so pause this right now, and on your version of this document that is on Kami, highlight that for me. That way you can turn it in, and I know you've been paying attention. Bob is a no-nonsense man, and that's what you want up there. Project manager Ken Brown says. Muir repays his loyalty, but isn't he worried about painting himself out of work? Meaning, isn't he worried that if he gets the job done, there won't be any more work? It has never come into my mind. I would love to see it finished as much as anyone. Then he adds, shrewdly, with this thing, you only resume. Well, if it doesn't get me a job... Sorry, let me try that again. With this thing on your resume, well, if it doesn't get me a job, I'll be just as well retiring. So this word here, we might not be familiar with, resume. A resume is a list of jobs that you've completed in the past. On your resume, you will have Millennium Community School as one of the schools that you went to. How fun. And your first job at McDonald's will be on your resume. So what he's saying here is, well, even if I do finish painting it, it'll look good on my resume when other people try to hire me. Safety is always the first consideration. It's time to inspect the bridge, but first we go through safety regulations. As Brown reads from a long list, surfaces are uneven, alcohol is banned. 1 long blast of the horn means an approaching train, 3 blasts means an imminent threat, and so on. Depending on whose figures you believe, the construction phase back in 1883 to 1890 claimed anywhere from 57 to 98 victims, including several painters. Since 2002, there has been only 1 recorded accident, which was a twisted ankle. Access to the site via a walkway slung underneath the railroad line. So that's how you get to the thing, through an underground walkway. Is mildly disorienting to have trains rumbling inches above your head while pigeons flit below your toes. So flit might be a word we're not quite familiar with. It basically means flutter, like a butterfly flutters its wings. So flit. I flit, I fleet, I fly. What song is that from? Mirror stares skyward. The tricky bit, he tells me, are the struts and the tubes. You can always stand on the lattice work, he says, but the tubes are at an angle. The painters operate in groups of up to a dozen. They are spray guns and grit blasters and dog-leg brushes, rejuvenating up to 5,000 square feet of steel a week. Depending on the humidity, temperature, and condensation, if the wind hits 45 miles per hour, the bridge is cleared. Potential micro-disasters await all around, overlooking the blockage in the paint sprays and the snout can. If the paint sprays and the snout can start to suddenly spew red with flesh-cutting ferocity. I think we might have gotten something cut off there. Snout overlooking the bridge. Alright, I guess we just don't need to understand that. Snout? A snout is like a dog's snout. I'll look that up. All this is happening 20 to 30 stories in the air. Sounds like a rather manic high-wire act. Alright, so we learned something from one of our questions here that we're looking for. And this is asking, is this job dangerous? The answer here is yes. And the question I'm posing to you is, out of everything that we learned in that section right here, what is the part that says best that it's dangerous? Look at it for a second, see if you can figure out what you would use if you had to pick just one thing to say that it's a dangerous job. I would use this part right here. Depending on whose figures you believe, the construction phase claimed from 57 to 98 victims, including several painters. I need one of those highlighters that you can see through at a weird angle. So when it says victims, it of course means people who died. So if we're trying to prove that this is a dangerous thing, we would say that we would point to this, saying that it's something people can die on. All right, let's continue with this. The height is both breathtaking and nerve-wracking. We slide, actually the word is sidle, I believe is how it's pronounced. It's when you move from side to side like a crab walking, stay with your back against a wall, you would be slidling up to an old length of angle iron, and Muir's job is everyone messes up reading sometimes. We sidle up to an odd length of angle iron, and Muir jabs a no-nonsense finger into the blistered paint. Tisk, 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 he mutters, as crispy cinnamon-colored flakes of rust float down through the air to the water 150 feet below. I grip the handrail a little tighter. Corrosion is what happens when steel begins to rust through exposure to humidity and oxygen. Muir's role is to keep humidity and oxygen at bay by scouring off the old red lead paint and applying 110,000 gallons of glass flake epoxy, a glue-like substance. Despite being barely the thickness of a credit card, the epoxy skin is expected to survive at least 25 years. So that's the type of paint that they're putting on. And did you notice that we answered this question again? What are the responsibilities of this job? Muir's job, is to keep the humidity and oxygen at bay. Okay, and we could cut it off there, or we could continue through by taking off the old paint and applying a new epoxy glue-like substance. That's his job, is to scrape off, essentially, the old paint and put on the new one. An orange figure with a glinting ear stud bounds along the metal ledge. It's Muir's brother, Michael, a grit blaster. I could tell you some things about Bob, he winks before vanishing into the honeycomb. Muir's stepson, William McMullen, also works on the bridge with the night shift grit recovery team. It is not surprising that families congregate around similar jobs, even potentially deadly ones. But sometimes this is too great of a temptation for fate. Muir, who has 3 stepchildren, a 16-year-old daughter, views the odds calmly. I had no hesitation whatsoever in encouraging William to join me, he declared, flexing his fingers. Of course, safety conditions on the bridge have improved. I ask Muir about the views from the bridge. They are amazing, he says, before catching himself. Not that I have much time on my hands. I move closer to the edge of the bridge and gaze along the horizon. He's absolutely right. I can report there is still an awful lot of bridge to paint. Job stats. Stats is short for statistics. Okay, statistics means numbers. So when this says job statistics, job stats, it means job numbers. And look right here, we get for our first number, 13. The pay is $13 an hour. Hours, Muir works 40 hours, 4 days a week, starting at 7:30 in the morning and finishing at 5:30 p.m., including a 30-minute lunch break. See all these numbers? That's why they call it stats. With possible overtime on Fridays and Saturdays. Work-life balance, no problems. Best things, the satisfaction of seeing a job well done. Worst things, that's easy, the weather. If it rains, you can't paint. If it's windy, we have to come off the bridge. Overtime. Muir brings his lunch from home. Tomato soup and steak pie is my favorite. We are given 30 minutes to eat on a cabin on the shore. If pressed at parties, he will chat about his heroic painting job. But, generally, I like to leave the bridge behind me once I finish the day's work. Muir likes to relax by fishing or for brown and rainbow trout. He has as far away from here as possible. So let's talk about a few of these things because we're answering all sorts of questions on our sheet here. First one, what is the average salary of this job? Salary means how much money do you make? Okay, so how much money does Muir make as a bridge painter? He makes $13 an hour. Salary, however, is not an hourly wage, but a whole year. Money for a whole year. So, let's do some math and see if we can figure out how much money Muir makes in an entire year. How many hours a day does he work? He works for 40 hours a day. How many days a week does he work? 4 days a week. So, if he's working 40 hours in one day, we can do 40 times 13 is how much he makes in a single day. Then we can take that number and multiply it by 4 days to get how much money he makes in a week. And let me grab my calculator out of my phone here. We can do that math. Mr. Sullivan's not about to trust himself with something like that. We can do 40 times 13 is $520 a day. Okay, multiply that by 4, and we're talking about $2,080 a week. That doesn't sound right. Yeah, that's not right at all. Ignore that. He's working 40 hours a week, not 40 hours a day. There's not 40 hours in one day. Let's try this again. If he works for 40 hours in one day times 13 hours for that day, that is equal to, this is why Mr. Shaw does the math. 40 times 13 is $520 a week. And then if we take our $520 for the week and multiply it by 4 weeks in a month, we get $2,080 a month. And then, of course, there are 12 months in a year. So if we multiply that by 12, then in a whole year, this man would make $24,000. A little bit more. Okay, hopefully that wasn't too disorienting there. But now that we have this number, we can use it instead of pay. So he makes $13 an hour or $24,000 per year. And that's the number that we can use for our salary. I'm going to write that down. What is the average salary of this job? Bridge painters make $24,000 per year. What source did we get that from? We can put down our nickname for the source, which was Bridge Article. And then see if there's anything else in here that we might have missed. Let's see here. Work-life balance, no problems. Best thing. Ooh, that's one of our questions. It's almost like Mr. Sullivan made the questions to go along with the article. What's the best part of this job? He says, the best part is the satisfaction of seeing a job well done. So we would be able to put that down for the best part of the job. And then it also has the worst part of the job is the weather. We would be able to put that down for our worst part of the job. Okay? So, that's an example. You're obviously not going to use this article because you're obviously not going to be talking about being a bridge maker, bridge painter in your career research report. At least I assume nobody's going to choose that. If you do, I guess we can work something out. So now that you've seen exactly what it's like to go through this, it's your turn to open up your copy of the career research and start looking through your sources. Actually, I almost forgot something. One more thing that we need to do. Okay, now that we've read this article, we can decide if it is credible. And we'll go through this pretty quickly because, spoiler alert, it is. Okay, authority. Is the author's name listed at the top? Let's go back and check. Aaron, yes. Is the author qualified? We don't know anything about this author. But we do know that he's inside of this article as a journalist. So he was interviewing this man named Demure. So is the author of this article qualified? No, he's actually not. He's not the bridge painter. He's not the one who tells you who should be telling you about the bridge. The man in the article is qualified. Is the author the owner of the website? No. Does the website have the About the Author section? No, it does not. Accuracy, is it free of grammar errors? Yes. Is there a list of other sources? No. Does it say something that you already know is not true? No. There was nothing in there that I just immediately was like, man, that's not right. Coverage, is the source long enough to be useful, short enough to be read? Yes. I would say this article is about the length you should be looking for. Are the different sections to help you navigate the source? Yes, we saw these different sections here. If we didn't want to read all of this stuff about Bob, we could have skipped straight to the end, to the job stats, and that would have gotten us through it faster. So are there things to help you? Yes. Do you understand what the source is saying? I'm actually going to put a yes, even though there was one or two things that used a few words that I just wasn't sure what it was trying to say there. I'll still have to go look that up, see what that was about. Objectivity. Could the author's nationality affect their opinion? The author is, we don't actually know their nationality, but we know that the man in here was British. Scottish, rather. Can being Scottish change their opinion on bridges? I doubt it. Bridges are probably the same no matter where you go. Could the author's profession affect their opinion? I'm going to say yes, because he is a reporter. The man who wrote this article was not the bridge painter, once again. He is the reporter, so his profession might affect his opinion. He obviously isn't the one who loves being a bridge painter, so yes, it could. Could the author's religion or politics? No. There's nothing in here that's political, there's nothing in here religious. Currency or currentness, is the date at the top of or the bottom? Yes, it is. Right here. 12/21/2016. So this is December 21st, 2016. It's only 4 years ago. I'd say that is recent as well. So yes, it's there. Yes, it's recent. Is the copyright date at the top or bottom of the page? We have a printout, so we don't actually have this. We're going to just go ahead and circle no. Won't matter much. Does the website update their page regularly? No, it does not. Newsela, once they put it out, done. Okay, so if we look through here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 in this column versus 7 in this column. Yes, this is a reputable source. Whew, I hadn't actually done that yet, so good thing it turned out that way. I'd have been a little close, but no source is ever going to be perfect. It's important to know where your source falls on here, so that you know what's wrong with it and what's right with it. Okay, so now it's your turn to go and grab your copy of the career research report. It is in Google Docs for you, and you are going to go ahead and start looking for some answers. Go to Google and type in some of these questions in here. How much money? What's the average salary of a lawyer? Or what is, how long do you need to go to school to be a doctor? Okay. As you go through this, look for things that answer the questions. Find yourself some articles. Put those article informations on your pages like this, and once you're done reading them, you can scribble down a little reminder of what it was about. This was a reporter interviews. Muir, Muir, about being a painter. Okay, a little something to remind us what this article was about. And then check to see if it's a reputable source. And if not, then oops, let's try again. Alright, you've got your article on Newsela. On Kami, you should have highlights. Turn it in so that I know that you followed along with this, and get to work on your research. Have a good one.